Now, before I start this episode, I want to put out a disclaimer. The first disclaimer is that I'm not an expert in anything that I say on this episode. I'm just a young man trying to grow and trying to have something for himself. The other disclaimer is that starting with this episode, I'm trying out something new for this podcast, and that is a format. I want the podcast to be more engaging and a little bit more interesting to listen to. So I'm trying out a format. It may work, it may not work. It may be something good for you, may not be something good for you. But what is life without trying out? What is life without the risks? So I'm going to try it out and we see what to do. Back to the episode. So most people think happiness is something you chase, like money, success, or even love, like some people that actually chase love. But what if I told you that happiness was always within you and it's just something that is waiting to uncover? Well, are you ready to rethink everything you know about being happy? Well, if that is so, this is the episode for you. Now, let me be honest with you. For the longest time, I thought happiness was synonymous with fun or laughter or those high energy moments, as if you're living in an endless sitcom or a comedy movie, or I could call it an endless party. But towards the end of last year, I stumbled upon a very insightful gentleman's work, and this guy is called Mo Gawdat. I don't know if I'm saying it right because these guys' names can be really weird, but it's Mo Gawdat. Yeah. So for those that don't know who Mo Gawdat is, this is a former Google executive who wrote a book called Solve for Happy. Me, I'm more interested in the book Solve for Happy. Yes, he has a lot of great work with Google, with tech. Very insightful gentleman. You can check him out on YouTube and see all the things that he's talking about, AI, what, because the world where we're going to, you need such insightful conversations entering into your head. Now, on the book, Solve for Happy. Now, if you read this book and go through it, for a Google executive, you would imagine everything. The guy has everything in life, everything he has, and man, a good job, family, wealth, because every person working for such a big multi-billion company obviously would suspect that they have everything, they're okay and they're happy. But it was until he had a sort of an unimaginable loss that he truly came to understand what happiness is. Personally, looking at his story, I started to reflect on my own life. I realized that the way I defined happiness on my side was a little bit shallow, because I had tied it to the external things like success, the validation from people, how many likes I have on maybe a post, how many listeners are watching, the stats and all that stuff. But like many things, happiness is supposed to be from within, not from outside. So this guy's story, Mo Gawdat's story, made me pause and rethink my approach to happiness. So here is the thing. Most of us live under the illusion that happiness is out there and waiting to be found. Oh, when we get this, we'll be happy. We think of things like, if I got that promotion, I'll be happy. Or once I'm in a perfect relationship, life will all be good. But Mo Gawdat says that this is where we get it all wrong. Happiness isn't something you achieve. It's something you uncover by removing the clutter of expectations and the negative thoughts. Now, from his journey, he developed a happiness equation, and this came while he was grappling with the loss of his son. His formula was this simple, that happiness was equal to your perception of events minus your expectations of how life should be. When Ali passed away, that is the son of Mo Gawdat, instead of Mo Gawdat being in the grief and all that, because the hardest thing that can happen to a parent is him being able to bury their own kid. That's the hardest thing that can happen to any parent. He asked himself that, what would Ali want from me? Like, what is that one thing that Ali would want for me to do? And he realized that his pain came from resisting the reality. The reality was that his son had gone. Obviously, he had the grief and all that, but overcoming the grief and asking himself what Ali would want for him, he realized that his pain came from resisting the reality. Instead of wishing what he could have changed, he focused on the beautiful memories he had with his son and the lessons that Ali had left him with. The backstory of Mo Gawdat and his son is that his son Ali had a huge part in who he became. He is actually the main reason as to why he wrote the book, or even all the books that Mo Gawdat has on happiness. Solve for happiness. Solve for happy. That they had that very strong bond. You see, every kid and their father had that very strong bond. And the one thing with Ali, he was sort of like a genius kid. And you see, these genius kids have a lot of insight and weird punchlines, like young people and the new things that come up in our minds. Yeah. So his son suffered from an appendix problem, and then it took him to hospital, but the procedure was done a little bit badly and he got an infection and passed on. Now, being in the position of Mo Gawdat, you have all this money, you have all these resources, and you lose your son in such a scenario. He kept asking himself, what could I have done better? I would have taken him to another hospital. I have the money to make sure that he got the right doctors around him and all that, but he didn't do that. And that grief and everything around that whole situation came to pass when he asked himself, what would Ali want for him? Because the pain came from him resisting the reality that whether he had gone to a better hospital or what, that was the reality for the kid. He was going to pass on. He was going to go. So this whole experience of Mo Gawdat and his son, and also his work, it hit me hard, and I started to think how much of our unhappiness comes from fighting the reality. We resist reality, and from this resistance, we tend to suffer more. I've started to notice that in these small things, like when you're stuck, or when I'm stuck in Entebbe Road traffic, or when plans don't go my way, instead of spiraling and worrying or quarreling about why things are not going my way, or being very unhappy, stressed, and having all that negative emotion, I should ask myself or prompt myself to understand, is this worth ruining my peace over? Because the main thing we need here is peace of mind. You see, when you have peace of mind, you think clearly, you start to go ahead on other things in life. But if you're in one way or another having some weird stress, some things get stagnant in you. Anyway, what is a Bezos Chivozi episode without actionable tips? So, if you're ready to rethink happiness, I suggest these are some things you should do so that you start to readjust how you think about happiness. Maybe based on also what Mo Gawdat went through. Just this is how I think you could take the steps. The first thing would be practice gratitude daily. Now, if you listen to many of my episodes where I talk about this idea of gratitude, the more you're grateful about a few things in your life, the more you get to notice them. So the more you start to get fulfilled, and in fulfillment, like we all know, in fulfillment, that's where happiness comes from, or some percentage of happiness. Challenge the negative thoughts. Now, like Mo Gawdat, the negative thoughts were the regrets of what he never did. But he challenged himself and asked himself, what did Ali want for me? Like, is this serving you? Is this negative thought serving you? Sometimes these negative thoughts serve us to maybe act as a point of motivation, but many times, they are just a source of stress. And you should always ask yourself, is this thought serving me to be me, or to be the better self of me, or to give me the happiness, or make me unhappy? So, is it serving you? Then, just like in Mo Gawdat's equation of happiness, let go of expectations. Because personally, in my understanding, I think expectations or stress, yes, stress comes from unmet expectations. That is also an unhappiness. Unhappiness comes from unmet expectations. If there are some things that, let me say you're in a relationship and you expect your boyfriend or your girlfriend to do something and they don't do it, you're going to get stressed in that relationship, or you're going to be unhappy in that relationship. So, yeah, let go of the expectations and live life the way it is. Experience every moment the way it is. And that's how I go into the next thing. Focus on the present. You see, in the present is where the magic lies. That's where all these moments that you want to live lie. The happiness that you need to get is in the present moment. Because it's within. It's not something you're going to try to achieve. You're not going to run out to say, if I get this, if I get these cars, if I get perfect girlfriend, if I get a lot of money, then I'll be happy. No. Focus on how you are right now, and then see how best you can achieve the highest level of happiness for you. Then find joy in simplicity. Now, I can't articulate how much joy you can get from making things simple, but I've come to understand that the simpler something is, if someone is actually grateful, the simpler something is, the more it makes them happy. You see, if you thought of a good gift for your loved one, and it's very simple, it would make them happy, because it's in those small things that compound into the big thing. Because that small thing would show that you have really researched what they like, things like that and that and that. And yeah, but all I'm saying is find joy in simplicity. Taking your girlfriend out for an ice cream takeout or something, that is simple, but you can find joy in that and happiness in that. So yeah, practice gratitude daily, challenge negative thoughts, let go of the expectations, focus on the present, and also find joy in simplicity. That would be my equation on happiness. Based on his story, based on what he went through, based on his book, I see that if you did any of these things, you'll try to find a way of getting happy within you, other than using the external things to gauge how happy you'll be. Because remember, these external things don't care about you. They're also trying to care about themselves. Personally, I may not care about how happy my neighbors are, how happy everyone around me is, but I'll care more about if I were happy. So that's the same thing with you. Most people don't care whether you're happy or not, so it's only you supposed to care about your happiness. So happiness isn't about chasing the highs of life. It's about finding peace in every circumstance, being present, accepting reality, and also living authentically. So ask yourself, what is the one thing you can do today to uncover your happiness? Yeah, to all those that have been a part of this journey, I want to thank you. Thank you for tuning in each week. You have made this podcast a space for growth, reflection, and everything in between. Let's keep chasing those deeper truths together. Yeah, so like I said, we are turning up the format, and so I want to end each episode from now onwards. I want to end each episode with so this week's challenge is to write down your own happiness equation and see how best you can live by it. Yeah, remember, happiness isn't a destination, it's a journey within. See you next Monday. Let's keep being happy.